Well, hello there. Happy Sunday, friends, lovers, and happy Valentine's Day. Today is Sunday, February 14th, 2021. And this is 5 Minutes with Robert Nasir and
Amy Nasir. Hey.
Ooh, and you. All of you, thank you so much for joining us. We are glad you are here on the 45th day of 2021.
Yeah.
The year that things eventually went back to normal. And then got better than normal. And then things got like 100 times better than even anybody expected. Whoops, wait. Spoiler alert. That hasn't happened yet. Today is February 14th, 2021, the 45th day of the year. 320 days remaining in the year. 314 days until Christmas. Seems like that was just a month and a half ago. 259 days until Halloween. You know, some people are celebrating second Halloween today.
As am I.
Tomorrow it'll be 258 days until Halloween. When do we start decorating? Maybe we should wait until March?
Maybe April. Yeah, hey, I just want to say hello to Jennifer, Linda Cordair, and Ollie, right? Or is it Oli?
I thought it was Oli.
Oli.
Oli will tell us.
Tell us how you pronounce your name again. Thank you.
We're so forgetful. That's okay. I'm just bringing things up on the monitors here. So.
Oh, and Holly's on too. Excellent. Hello.
Wonderful.
She's on YouTube.
Excellent. We need more YouTube viewers. So, people should listen to the show and then go to YouTube and listen to it again.
And you should actually listen to our show while you're sleeping, so that you can kind of basically bring our ideas into your mind while you're sleeping, where you're most subjective and most not subjective, but most susceptible to suggestion.
You know, it's funny you should say that.
Yeah. and then you can play it over and over again and repeat, and we'll have tons of views.
That's right. We need your views. Okay, I've got my monitors up. I've got the chats up on both of my machines. You've got them up there. We're ready to go. No more screwing around, because on this day in history, well, it's February 14th, and so we celebrate the martyrdom of St. Valentine.
Woohoo! Poor guy. He didn't even get the girl.
I know, but he got the girls together with the guys.
He did.
According to History.com, on February 14th, around the year 270 A.D., Valentine, a holy priest in Rome in the days of Emperor Claudius II, was executed. Under the rule of Claudius the Cruel, Rome was involved in many unpopular and bloody campaigns. The emperor had to maintain a strong army, but was having a difficult time getting his soldiers to join the military leagues. Claudius believed that Roman men were unwilling to join the army because of their strong attachment to their wives and their families. Go figure. So to get rid of the problem, Claudius banned all marriages and engagements in Rome. Valentine, realizing the injustice of the decree, defied Claudius and continued to perform marriages for young lovers in secret.
That's fantastic.
When Valentine's actions were discovered, Claudius ordered that he be put to death. Valentine was arrested, dragged before the prefect of Rome. Sad stuff. Who condemned him to be beaten to death with clubs and to have his head cut off. Jeez, insult injury much? The sentence...
Little overkill there, Emperor Claudius II.
You've overkilled him, yes. The sentence was carried out on February 14th on or about the year 270. Now, we're being a little bit irreverent in more ways than one because, well, the exact origins and identity of St. Valentine are unclear. According to the Catholic Encyclopedia, quote, at least 3 different St. Valentines, all of them martyrs, are mentioned in the early martyrologies under the date of the 14th of February. Legend also has it that while in jail, St. Valentine left a farewell note for the jailer's daughter, who had become his friend, and signed it, "From your Valentine." Is that how it all began? Well,
these are just legends. But there is the what actually did happen in Roman times is the Lupercalia, where people got together and they feasted and everything, and they did sort of, sacrificing, and then they took like skins of goats that were all bloody, and then they basically, it was a fertility thing. The young men went around to women, and then they beat them with these bloody pieces of goat skin, and they wanted to be beaten because that meant that they'll be more fertile, and if they wanted babies.
That's hot.
That's so hot. And then they had this giant urn, and the women would put their names in it, and then the men would take out their names, and then they would get together, and some of them would actually end up married. But at least I suppose maybe there was a little bit more romance going on there, hopefully.
Oh, there was much. Yes, sure. Put my name in the urn. That's...
Beat me with a bloody goat skin.
Yes. Well, you wouldn't want to get married if your name wasn't in the urn, because objectivists don't believe in the unearned.
Oh, gosh. Oh, my gosh.
Yes, these traditions. We've talked about how love was a different thing in the past. And, people would get married because of dowries, because of property, because of establishing lineages and keeping certain ruling families in power. And nowadays, people get married because they fall in love. How awesome is that? I keep saying things are getting better and better. Also on this day, we want to wish a happy birthday.
Oh, happy birthday
to Rob Thomas of Matchbox 20.
Okay.
Mad Season being my favorite Matchbox 20 song. We wish a happy 73rd birthday to Teller, one half of the magician team of Penn and Teller. But best of all, we wish happy birthday to Frederick Douglas, born on February 14th in 1818. Frederick Douglass, the abolitionist, leader of the abolitionist movement in the American Northeast, most famous for his oratory and writings. Born into slavery in Maryland, Douglass escaped north in 1838 and became involved in the anti-slavery movement. In 1845, he published The Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, an American Slave, a bestseller at the time, still considered among the most influential personal accounts of slavery. I could say more, but in our show notes for this episode are links to both Timothy Sandefur's article about Frederick Douglass, but also episode 1 of Andrew Bernstein's The Hero Show was specifically about Frederick Douglass. So after you're done listening to our amazing and wonderful and exciting romantic Valentine show, you can give that a listen. Also on this day in history, the pale blue dot. Voyager 1. The space probe that they sent out in 1990 took a picture of Earth, and it was called the pale blue dot. Here, let me put that up on the screen.
Oh, is this the technological possibility of putting this image up on the screen?
Yes. Well, here's the thing. If you look at this picture...
What am I looking at here?
I don't know if you can see the pale blue dot. It looks really more like an artifact here. It's about a pixel wide.
Is it in the middle of the right side?
Yes,
ray?
It's that reddish line.
On the right side?
In the middle, you see kind of a little pale blue dot.
That's us.
Yes.
There we are.
Well, Carl Sagan actually put out a book called Pale Blue Dot.
Oh.
And the point is that they sent out this probe, leaving the solar system, turns back, takes a picture toward Earth, and they figured out, oh yeah, that little dot, that's us.
Jennifer says she sees it, so that's good.
Excellent. Well, here's the thing. Why did we put up a picture of the pale blue dot?
What is the thing?
There's a link in the show notes. There was recently a great video called The Cosmic Eye. And it was a video of a woman laying on the campus of the Googleplex, where Google is. And it starts focused in on her eye, and then it expands out to the whole property, and then the whole city, and then the whole Earth, and then the whole solar system, and then the whole galaxy, and it keeps expanding out. And what it does is it gives you an idea of what the spaces in the universe, how the sizes work. And it's kind of unfathomable, the extent of the visible universe, but they take you all the way out. Then they zoom back in, they zoom right to this girl's eye, and then they keep going. And they take you into the eyeball and the bloodstream and blood cells, and ultimately down to DNA and then molecules, and then zoom back out to the level at which we see things. And just like with the pale blue dot, some people leave that thinking it's overwhelming just how small we are and how big everything else is. But here's the thing. That pale blue dot, that little tiny nothing, and that was just leaving the solar system from another galaxy. You wouldn't even see that. It wouldn't even register. But here's the thing. Everything that matters,
Yeah.
at least as far as we know, everything that matters, in other words, every living entity that's capable of anything mattering to it, is on that pale blue dot. And what we care about today is that every love story, not just every love story ever told, but every love story ever lived, takes place on that pale blue dot. So far from being small and insignificant, it makes you realize the actual scale on which things matter. We'll be talking more about, meaning and purpose, and because some people feel like, I don't know what the meaning of my life is or the meaning of life is. We've had that conversation before, and we'll have it again. But my point today is just when I see that today's the anniversary of the 1990 photograph of the pale blue dot, I realize what's amazing is how they managed to get so far away from everything that matters.
Yeah. Well,
we're going to be talking about
there's
that
a lot
today.
going on in that pale blue dot, and honestly, you think to yourself, I guess the universe is infinite. And it just keeps going on and on and on.
Yes. Well, as objectivists, we would say it's not infinite, but it's boundless.
It's boundless.
Yes.
Yes.
Otherwise, we might receive a correction if we say that.
Yeah, right. The corrector might come after us. Jennifer asks, is that like a fractal?
Is that like a fractal? It is, in the sense that fractals imply the infinite, but aren't actually infinite. Just like the number line. We have a line. Like a ray goes off into one direction, never ends, but it doesn't actually go on forever. Nothing in reality actually goes forever.
Yeah.
So in that sense, the universe doesn't go on forever. Not if the universe is everything that exists, because what exists is finite.
But Jennifer says, but what about my favorite Martian?
Ooh, good point. Elon Musk is going to get us to Mars, and then we'll get to meet the little green Martian from Bugs Bunny, and my favorite Martian. All the Martians that we saw on television, we finally get to meet them in person.
Finally.
How awesome is that going to be?
It's amazing. You get their autographs.
So what are we listening to this week?
So Robert, what are we listening to this week?
Well, I've actually been catching up on podcasts, and so I've been just buried in episodes of the Yes Music podcast, my favorite band, and Penn and Teller's, or Penn Gillette's podcast.
Yes.
Penn Sunday School, and a lot of the inspirational ones I've talked about, Lewis Howes and Dan Harris's 5% Happier, and but Yarn Brook had one today that I do recommend folks go listen to after you're done here. Don't you dare click
after
anything
you're
else.
Done with this.
But no,
one thing at a time.
He did do an episode called Happy Valentine's Day, The Philosophy of Love.
That's so nice.
And it's great because in the comments I made my point that, see, he was saying it's not all about politics. You should be living a good life. And everybody's always politics. Yarn, I want more politics. And he gets more like super chatters, contributors, money when he talks about politics. And he's like, that's not even the stuff that matters most. And so I got to comment. And, same things that, of course, you already know and you've heard me say 100 times, that what really matters is living your own best life. And that you are, the star of this show. It was interesting because he actually said, even before I commented, sometimes I swear it's like hearing myself talk. He said, what matters is loving being alive, loving life, having an impact. He said, you are in control. That should inspire you. Every day of your life should inspire you. So, that's my kind of talk. So I say go listen to that show after ours.
That is one of the questions that I ask myself after a day is, what was my favorite part of it? What was most inspiring in my day? What really gave me a smile? What gave me a pep in my step? Did something actually happen that was kind of out of the ordinary? Yeah, that's a fun question for the end of the day.
Well, you are a world-class introspector, so that's...
I am.
You are.
I can tell you all about myself.
You are self-aware. So listening to that episode from Yarin brings me... And I haven't actually finished it because I had to leave and finish up the notes for this show. So I'm actually looking forward to hearing, after the first, 40 minutes, too. But that brings me to our topic for today, and that is love.
Love.
What is love? Now, some people out there are saying, well, love can't be defined. Nobody knows what love is. All the objectivists out there are saying, love is a response to values. And that's exactly right. In fact, since I'm quoting Ayn Rand, I'm going to go on quoting Ayn Rand.
Are you?
Who says, in Philosophy and Sense of Life from the Romantic Manifesto, I love this, that the quotes that I'm going to get, I get just a couple, about love, they're not from the objectivist ethics or from a love scene in one of her books. The first quote is from Philosophy and Sense of Life from the Romantic. Now, the Romantic Manifesto is not about romance. It's about romantic art. It's about aesthetics. I just love that you could be reading an Ayn Rand essay or speech on one thing, and in the middle of that is this amazing gem. So, anyway, quote, "It is with a person's sense of life that one falls in love, with that essential sum, that fundamental way or stand, that way of facing, let me reread that again, with that essential sum, that fundamental stand or way of facing existence, which is the essence of a personality."
There's a lot in that. Whoa, that's only 2 sentences.
One falls in love with the embodiment of the values that formed that person's character, which are reflected in his widest goals or smallest gestures, which create the style of his soul, the individual style of a unique, unrepeatable, irreplaceable consciousness. Now, it's great because that concept of the style of a soul is brought up in The Fountainhead by Ellsworth Toohey. And we've pointed out that Ellsworth Toohey, a villain in her great novel, has some of the best lines. He has some of the best quotes. So it's great to see outside of Ellsworth Toohey saying it, this notion of the style of a soul. One falls in love with the embodiment of the values that formed a person's character, which are reflected in his widest goals or smallest gestures, which create the style of his soul. So yes, love is a response to values. She goes on in The Ethics of Emergencies. Again, why the ethics of emergencies do we find these magnificent insights into love?
Yeah, she's like, oh, by the way, let me give you a quote on love.
And yet, her view on emergencies and the ethics of emergencies does depend on this integrated view of values. She writes, "One gains a profoundly personal, selfish joy from the mere existence of the person one loves. It is one's own personal selfish happiness that one seeks, earns, and derives from love. A selfless, disinterested love is a contradiction in terms. It means one is indifferent to that which one values. Concern for the welfare of those one loves is a rational part of one's selfish interests. If a man is passionately in love with his wife, if he spends a fortune to cure her of a dangerous illness, it would be absurd to claim that he does it as a sacrifice for her sake, not his own, and that it makes no difference to him personally and selfishly whether she lives or dies."
Yep. There's a lot to chew on here. I've got another
Yes.
quote. I don't think you've actually
Yes.
talked about this yet, but it's a broader sense of love. It's not just romantic love. So it's basically love, friendship, respecting somebody and admiring somebody, admiration, are the emotional response of one man to the virtues of another. The virtues of another. And in objectivism and in the writings of Ayn Rand, virtues are not, they're a lot more richer, they're deeper than anywhere else that I've ever seen in any philosophy or theological resource out there. And it's really amazing. It's just beautiful. So it's the spiritual payment. She talks about a spiritual payment here, given in exchange for the personal selfish pleasure which one man derives from the virtues of another man's character. So this is really interesting. I mean, you see this kind of exchange in 4-year-olds on the playground. You see this interesting phenomenon of being a human being and having this conceptual nature and having this emotional mechanism and having all of these values and thoughts integrated in your life. And then you meet somebody else who can appreciate the same thing. And it is really a spiritual exchange. And it's just fantastic. And to be able to actually say this and articulate this in a way that is that everybody else understands it, is just wonderful, because it's really lovely to have a philosophical basis for love.
Yes.
And to know and understand what's going on with it. There are some really lovely quotes by other people, like Voltaire. He said something really crafty and clever, like, "Love is a canvas furnished by nature and embroidered by imagination." And you look at it, it's really fluffy and it's really pretty and it's really clever. But it's not really telling me so much about love than it is about the kind of the result of loving is. It doesn't really tell me what the cause is. It's telling me about the effect of it. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, who wrote The Little Prince, one of my favorite authors actually, love does not consist of gazing at each other, but in looking outward together in the same direction, which is a wonderful perspective. It's, but the thing is it is gazing at each other too. But I should say, romantic long-term love is about looking outward together in the same direction, but then coming back and having that visibility with each other, that spiritual exchange, and talking about what you just saw and the beauties of life. So, a lot of these thoughts on love from a lot of other people, they're very interesting, but they don't quite go so deep.
Well, some are deeper than others.
Yes.
Since you're bringing in other writers and their thoughts on love, I have to mention Robert Heinlein.
Yes.
His test, or one of his tests, one of the best tests for love, is very simple. Love is that condition in which the happiness of another person is essential to your own.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
One way that I know that somebody is a deep value to me, the people that I love, is that I can't be happy if they're unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
That when they're hurting, I'm hurting. Love is that condition in which the happiness of another person is essential to your own. I always think of that as a test for love. It's not a definition.
Mm-hmm.
But it's unquestionably true. If somebody doesn't matter to you, whatever it is you feel for them, it's not love.
Mm-hmm.
Incidentally, looking that up, I came across another Heinlein quote, which I'm very familiar with as well. And I have to read this because it mirrors an Ayn Rand quote. So I'm going to read these two, see if you see the relationship. Robert Heinlein wrote, "The more you love, the more you can love, and the more intensely you love.
Mm-hmm.
Nor is there any limit on how many you can love. If a person had time enough, he could love all of that majority who are decent and just." Ayn Rand wrote in The Conflict of Men's Interests.
I was going to say we should talk about that too.
Ayn Rand wrote, "Like any other value, love is not a static quantity to be divided, but an unlimited response to be earned. The love for one friend is not a threat to the love for another. And neither is the love for the various members of one's family, assuming they have earned it.
Mm-hmm.
The most exclusive form, romantic love, is not an issue of competition. If two men are in love with the same woman, what she feels for either of them is not determined by what she feels for the other, and is not taken away from him. Again, going back to Heinlein, the more you love, the more you can love.
Yes.
And the more intensely you love.
Yes.
Nor is there any limit on how many you can love. If a person had time enough, he could love all of that majority who are decent and just.
Sometimes I think in those terms, especially now. Robert always talks about how wonderful life is, and we're living in the best time that humanity has ever lived, and we have wonderful things that are just miracles happening every day. People building new things, people solving new things, and really making life beautiful. So many people in orchestration every single day making life better and more beautiful and more comfortable and more value oriented. And I think of those people, and I think kindly of them. I think that they are decent, and it's a nice feeling to think, well, those people who are producing values, I may not agree with their politics, for instance. I may not agree with some of their ideas on morality, for instance, but they are a positive force in the universe because they are creating, they are working, they are. What's the measure of a man again, Robert?
And does he produce as much as he consumes?
Yes.
Does he give as good as he gets?
Yes. Thank you.
Is he just in regard to the world at large?
Yes.
Yeah. I give as good as I get.
Yeah. So, I think about that. And, I also think about those who are, like in Atlas Shrugged, who are, unfortunately, they really don't, these are the villains I'm talking about. They really don't have a sense of themselves. They don't really have a strong commitment to their own values. They don't really want to define anything. They don't want to protect the things that they love. And they don't really want to be natural people. In other words, they don't want to be thinkers. And their self-esteem suffers so much, and all they can do is kind of follow blindly, whatever organization, what is it, Friends of Global Progress, that Philip Reardon wanted everybody to contribute to, but he had absolutely no joy in actually helping them. He had zero. It was just flat affect.
It's the strangest thing about the world is that there are other things you could do besides love things. Mm-hmm. And somehow people go out there and waste their time on that. Mm. Now I'm using love as a replacement or as a synonym for values.
Yes.
There are things you could do besides achieve things. There are things you could do besides valuing things. What I'll never understand is, well, yeah, but why does anybody do that? But it turns out that they do. Mm-hmm. People have psychologies that they've allowed to be twisted into pretzels where their self-esteem depends on something besides doing good things.
Yes.
It's the strangest thing to me.
It is very strange and very sad. And if you feel like that, I encourage you to talk about it, get some help.
I don't know that anybody listening to this show would feel that. I only make the point that it's out there.
I know.
Evil,
I don't think anybody who's listening to the show is like that.
Evil actually exists.
Yes. Evil does exist. Evil is a boring lack of values, is what evil is.
Well, boring is an
boring.
Interesting point. You're right.
It's
on a metaphysical level, it's boring.
It is. It's unthinking. It's turning against your nature as a human being.
But it is something that, it's part of that 3% that I always say. You've got to spend 3% of your time fighting evil.
Right.
And 97% of your time achieving the good. Mm-hmm. But you do got to protect yourself from that stuff because it's real.
You do. Before we move on, Jim has something to say here. He says, there are some who would say that because the universe is so huge, I think this is going back to the whole
yes,
boundless universe idea, it makes you insignificant.
Yes.
I think that's the humility metaphysics. But what those people don't tell you is that you have a power that the universe does not have. The universe can't think. Very, very true. The fact that you are an entity that thinks makes you and those whom you love, and especially someone you are in love with, very significant.
Yes, well, Jim's exactly right.
Nice.
It's when you just look at the size of things, it's very easy to think that the Earth is very small. But if you look at what's interesting about the universe, it's all right here. This is where all of the action is. If it turns out there's some kind of life somewhere else, in other words, there's some kind of entity to which things matter, okay, then you can adjust that understanding of the world. But otherwise, no. This is where the action is. All of it. It's the most amazing thing.
And I just want to say that I want to thank everybody who is posting in the Facebook and YouTube comments about what artwork that they love most on Cordair.com.
Oh, wonderful. Well, we should talk about that for a second before I go on here.
Yes.
And we posted it on Facebook. If you go to Cordair.com, we're running a contest. It's a drawing that Linda Cordair's got going on. And I think the only thing you have to do to qualify is go to the website and tell us what your favorite work of art is.
Yeah, or just tell me that you want to enter.
Yes, tell Amy. Okay, she'll get you in on it. And we will, before we're done, tell you it's the most amazing thing. I went there earlier today and said, okay, well, let me do that too. And picked out my two favorites. And Amy went there, picked out a few of her favorites. And with no communication between us,
None.
our top favorites matched.
Our top favorite painting matched.
And sculpture too. We looked at everything, and it was a painting. And when you see this, which we will tell you, and the link will be in the show notes. When you see this, you tell me if you think that would have been something that we would have agreed on.
Yeah.
Because it's not obvious.
It's not obvious.
It's not, but it hit me more than anything else.
But the question is, what is the most romantic painting at Cordair.com?
Oh, yes. If you didn't see the post,
question.
that was the question.
And
the most romantic, not romantic aesthetically, not romantic 1800s music, but Valentine's Day romantic.
Yes.
So yes, take a look at Cordair.com and you tell us, well, a few people already have, what's the most romantic for you on there?
Yeah, there are a lot of wonderful responses here. Yeah.
So I had insomnia this week.
Did you?
Yes.
I think I did too, actually. I did too.
So I ended up going through some of my old notes, including a couple of things we discussed in our episodes on marriage and unconditional love and values. For example, because it's Valentine's week, I always repeat my secrets of a successful marriage. And I'm only going to mention part of one of the 5. It was a week-long, Monday through Friday thing. And my day 3 secret was a quick one. The success secret, number 3, never forget how you feel about the people you love.
Yes.
Oh, that's easy enough, right? Love is an emotion, but it's concomitantly an evaluation.
Yeah.
So there may be moments when you don't feel the emotion, but never, ever allow yourself to forget the evaluation. See, if you already know the value of each person in your life, then it should be easy. Just make certain that whatever your relationship's ups and downs, you stay aware of this partner's place in the value hierarchy of your life. If you've never consciously, conceptually thought about the measure of the importance of your spouse, or your parents, or your kids, or your friends, or even your pets, then it's important that you do that ASAP.
Yep.
Now, to some people, this might be obvious, but I am surprised by how many people, good people I know, who don't practice this simple principle. The example I gave, growing up, I was always amazed at the lack of gratitude other kids would often exhibit in regard to their own parents. Don't they know these people gave them life, sustained them when they were helpless, and kept them alive for years? I couldn't quite fathom the anger husbands would show their wives, or vice versa. The ingratitude that elder parents would show their adult children, who often provided for them. But knowing explicitly and staying conscious of someone's importance in your life does more than help you through the hard times and maintain your gratitude. It also makes celebrating easier and more fulfilling as your values become more present to you, more consistent and more urgent. So when you're angry or disappointed at, say, your spouse, you can also stay conscious that this person is someone important to you, someone you love, your partner and your ally, never your opponent. There are real enemies out in the world, real opponents. Never let yourself think of your friends, your family, and especially your soulmate as anything but allies, teammates, partners. If you love someone, then love them well, love them seriously, and love them all the time.
And I should say to know them is to love them. To love them, I should say this, to love them is to know them. And understand explicitly in your mind, in your memory, why you love them. What qualities do you love about them? What experiences have you had with them that just made you love them? Yes.
Yes.
To love them is to know them.
So real quick, the thoughts of an insomniac. As I'm awake at 4 or 5 in the morning and can't get back to sleep because I'm being brilliant. And it's funny because you get out of bed and you write these things down and you look at them in the morning and you're like, that wasn't brilliant. What was I even thinking?
He was showing me some of these things on his yellow notepad, and
Yes.
he's like, I don't even know what this means.
Yes.
But I'm sure it was really, 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 really brilliant.
It's people who've seen this is how I do my show notes, is with a big Sharpie on a yellow legal pad. I learned that from Gail Winan. He showed me how to do that. And thoughts of an insomniac. Why do we need to remind ourselves, to reassure ourselves of facts, of things we already know, things we've already established are true? You see the connection here to always remember how you feel about the people you love.
Yeah.
Simple facts like water is wet and sunshine is warm and I am good and I am capable and I can at any time call upon enormous knowledge and insight and strength and courage and passion, all of which are part of me, of who I am, of what I've done before and can and will do again. Simple facts. These are all facts. Things I know. Let me repeat that. You are good. You are capable. You can at any time call upon enormous knowledge and insight and strength and courage and passion, all of which are part of you, of who you are, of what you've done before, and can and will do again.
Robert, you're just pepping me up.
Well,
I feel like I could take over the world.
there's an answer to that question. Why do we need to remind ourselves of facts like this?
Yes.
And the reason is because they don't always feel like facts. And we think of times we've fallen short, and so it doesn't seem as firm, as real. And yet,
Yes.
and yet it's all true. You are good. You
Right.
are capable.
Right.
And you can do these things, and you will do these things. So why do we end every episode saying, we wish you love? Because that's what we feel. because that is the truth.
Right.
That is a simple fact.
You know, that goes in, I'm going in the direction now of, so why do we need to keep reminding ourselves of that? And why, because we don't feel that it's real sometimes. And I think a lot of that comes from, and I don't know if this is, I am not a person who is well versed in this, but it's that whole idea of you remember fearful things more than you can, sometimes.
It's a survival thing. You have to remember threats.
Right.
Because when things are going well, there's nothing urgent that you need to do. But
Right.
when there's a threat, you need to take it seriously.
Yes.
Yes, you're right.
And then, your integrated mind-body function, it goes on high alert. And
Yes.
then you, that makes you remember those bad things. Or perhaps if you make a mistake, you're going to remember that forever, and it's going to haunt you in your dreams at 3 a.m. and or if you can't get to sleep.
And we're real big at putting threats in their place, putting them in the 3% box.
Yeah.
But you're right. They are real. They need to be paid attention to. There's bad juju out there.
Right.
Sam says in the chat here, he says, some people don't want to live. Mm-hmm. Now, that sounds exaggerated if you're not, an objectivist, but it's true. Some people would rather be angry. Some people would rather destroy things. Some people would rather respond negatively. They will destroy a value rather than allow you to do what they regard as what they don't want. Some people, it's rare, but there are people out there who do not function from good intent, from goodwill.
Or they don't function from, the nature of the best of themselves, which is their ability to think.
Or even the good of themselves.
Right.
And the point is not that there's all the evil out in the world and we should be pessimistic. It's just the point is that good and evil are a thing. And some people have opted not to be good.
You could say that some people don't want to live, but I think it's more fundamental to say some people don't want to think. They don't want to think about their lives. And then they focus their frustrations because they are so unhappy on other people, and then they make other people's lives miserable.
Yep. I had posted on the chat with Yara, and I said, love isn't easy. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of people were saying, well, I haven't found romantic love, or I'm not in a relationship right now. And you're right. I have every sympathy with them. Mm-hmm. Love ain't easy.
Yep.
Neither is success. Neither is life. Mm-hmm. But that's fine, because I don't care if it's easy. All I care about is whether it's doable. And it is. Love isn't easy. Success isn't easy. Life isn't easy. But it is doable. And I have every sympathy, because I've been there. Well, even if I hadn't, but I have. I have every sympathy for anybody who's between relationships or between careers. We tend to be pretty optimistic here, but I've said before, I don't want anybody to take that as a suggestion that if you're going through hard times, you must be doing something wrong. Mm-hmm. That's not the case.
Yep.
Incidentally, I just turned the page here. I actually left this in here, and I probably shouldn't, because these are the parts of the notes that make no sense. This is what you wake up and write it for in the morning. Power is passion. Passion is power. Every note, every reminder, every list, every journal entry, every appointment, everything you ever write is also a love letter, is a gift, is a manifesto. What the hell does that even mean?
That sounds like something that Voltaire would write.
And yet I know I could rewrite. I will rewrite this. I'll make a whole episode out of just that one paragraph once I figure out what the hell it even means.
Have you ever written something down that is so abstract and it jumps over essential, essential details that you're not entirely sure what's going on there?
I think what I was thinking at the time is that anything that you do that is rational, that is what you should do or what you want to do or is in alignment with your values, now has a relationship to every other value in your life. Everything that's positive is positive. Everything that's a value is of value. And in that sense, it is a love letter to yourself. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. but that's a little woo and definitely needs some straightening out there.
Now that we are at about a quarter to the hour here, do we want to talk about what our most romantic painting was?
I think we should. I think we should put that up on the screen.
All right.
And link will be in the show notes as well. But I'm going to put that up here. Now, people are listening to the podcast later, so they can't see this. But there you go.
There it is.
There you go. From Danielle Richard.
I'll post it in the comments for Facebook and YouTube right now.
Now, the amazing thing, again, is that I decided this would be my top favorite for the category in question. Sent Amy the link and immediately heard her reaction in the other room. And she said that was the one. And so go to Cordair.com and you'll see the category by artist. So go to Danielle Richard. It's near the bottom of the paintings section.
Yes, I've got both in the YouTube and Facebook. I have the link in there.
Yes. And look at this work, and you may decide you need to buy something by Danielle Richard. Mm-hmm. Of course, anything you buy at Cordair.com is going to be worth having, but
yes,
it's been wonderful to read some of the ones that you've offered up here as well.
And I should tell you this. I know that I think that there is a common misconception, perhaps, in our audience, that if you go to Cordair.com, you look at paintings and beautiful sculptures and everything like that, you think, well, I'm going to have to shell out $20,000 for a painting. No, that's not true. They have, wonderful cliches, or cliches, I should say, basically reprints of artwork that are much more affordable than that.
Oh, yeah. There's the range of sizes and prints and originals and
may even
calendars. You go to the calendars page and order this year's calendar.
So there's a lot
that
that you can purchase there. And I do know that...
and you can join Club Cordair.
Yes, you can join Club Cordair, which is sort of like a layaway program. You kind of you put in money for a future purchase.
Yes.
So they're really wonderful.
There are many ways to make art a part of your life, even if you're not super wealthy.
Yes, if you fall in love with something, Linda and Quent are there to help you fulfill your dreams.
Linda lets us know that Danielle pronounces her last name French, like Richard.
Oh,
Danielle Richard.
Richard. Oui, you know what? Isn't that wonderful? Because I have the French Atlas Shrugged called Le Grève.
Yes, you do. Right there. Look at that.
This is all in French, everybody. It's Atlas Shrugged.
You can read Atlas Shrugged in French.
Yes, you can. But, okay, so the reason why we chose this...
So why did his blue shirt resonate with you?
Okay, because, first of all, I'm very much attracted to any representation of a human being who has intelligent eyes. And she most certainly does. She has a certain intensity, a certain soulfulness, a certain depth that she is conveying in her facial expression. And I really, really enjoy that. I love the fact that she has, I think it's kind of like a light reddish hair or natural red hair. It's beautiful. I love the color in her face. You can tell that she's really living. She's got the sleeves rolled up. You know, she's got some pine cones that she's holding onto. It looks as if she's looking out the window. But the title really struck me, his blue shirt. In terms of she's wearing somebody's shirt, and this person that owns the shirt, somebody who she really does love. And at least that is what I'm seeing here. If I'm going to use the Luke Travers touching the art method here and just forget about the title, I'm looking at this and it is very, very lovely. It's like the shirt is embracing her. She's got her arms and her hands, kind of across her knee, and she's almost embracing herself. But at the same time, she's looking outwards. She's thinking about something quite intently. Or perhaps she's expectant of somebody coming home, and it's a really lovely and unexpectedly sensual painting.
What I love about this one is everything about it, and what struck me, besides the fact that it's just beautifully rendered, is that it draws you in and you start thinking of stories in your head about what's going on here. But if you look at it long enough, other stories will occur to you. And by the time I thought about it for a minute or two, I imagined just all sorts of wild things. What is this woman thinking about? Why is she wearing his blue shirt? Is this, it's easy to think, well, it's somebody who's not in the scene. It's somebody that she misses for some reason. Is he on a job assignment? Is he away in the military? Is he somebody who passed away? Is it somebody that she used to be in a relationship and isn't anymore? Is it her father? There are just so many ways in which you could look at this and imagine, 1,000 love stories.
Yes.
And I just love that about it. It's a very specific kind of intensity it represents, and yet at the same time, it's universal.
Yes.
A fantastic piece there. So that was certainly the one that hit me, and apparently it was also the one that hit Amy.
Which was so funny because honestly, the variety at Cordair.com is immense.
Yeah, What are the odds?
It took us a while to go through the website and think, okay, am I really picking the one that I like the best?
Oh, yeah, it's hard to look at everything.
I'm going to go ahead and post in Facebook and YouTube a couple of my runner-ups or my honorable mentions.
Good.
Another one by Danielle Richard called Bridget Under the Tree.
Ah, Brigitte.
Brigitte Under the Tree.
Probably. Maybe.
Perhaps.
All right. Amy's honorable mentions are coming into the chat. While you're doing that, and special thanks to Linda, who is running a drawing.
Yes.
And a substantial drawing there. Amy will forward off the entries.
Yes,
so
I will.
that y'all are
and
in on that.
Randomly pick a winner of the $100 gift certificate. $100 gift certificate.
Holy smoke.
It's very, very generous of Linda and Quint Cordair, and they just opened up their beautiful gallery in Jackson, Wyoming. And I'm just very, very honored and grateful.
So wonderful. So while Amy's doing that, and while y'all are wrapping up your posting your favorites there, your homework for the week. First of all, my Post-it note for the week, what I'm going to have in the mirror says, imagine the opposite. And this is something that once again came up during insomnia this week. What I find helpful, if I find myself roadblocked or stymied or approaching something with any uncertainty or insecurity, a useful trick is just imagine the opposite. And this is not fake it till you make it, because you're not going to fake anything. All you're going to do is take a moment and imagine the opposite. Imagine if you did know the answer, or imagine if you were confident. And take a moment and just sit with that imagination. You almost can't help but feel some of what you imagine. Mm-hmm. And I find that extremely helpful. It even enhances my creativity. I've mentioned before the kind of stub idea of, well, I don't know what to do. But if I did know what to do, what would I be thinking? Or what would that answer be? Even then I may draw a blank, but it leads me into more creative directions. So I find imagine the opposite to be very helpful. And right about now, that's going to go on my mirror, because right about now I need that. Mm-hmm. Your homework for the week is creative writing. My homework for this week, and you're welcome to join me on this, is to rewrite something. We come across, especially in philosophy or psychology or in life coaching, we come across things we don't agree with, but which have something valuable to them, a kernel of truth or a slant on things we hadn't thought of. And one thing I find valuable is to take it and rewrite it in terms I would have done it, the way I would have done the assignment. I came across John's post about Jordan Peterson. And, kind of what's good about Jordan Peterson and why he doesn't quite get the job done. What's wrong with Jordan Peterson? So what I'm doing this week is I'm rewriting Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life. If you know Jordan Peterson's book, 12 Rules for Life, Rule 1, stand up straight with your shoulders back. It's a great rule. If you stand up straight with your shoulders back, especially if you're like me and you tend to slouch, changing your posture all of a sudden changes your state, your mental state, your energy level, your self-confidence. It's actually a great idea. And making it a rule is a way to remind yourself every now and then, hey, stand up straight with your shoulders back. And that'll mean, chin in, your head level, your eyes focus forward. I'm adding all that in, but that's the idea. The reason why it came up for me and in relation to this week's topic is his number 2. Rule number 2 is treat yourself like someone you are responsible for helping.
Yes.
It's not the way I would put it. I would say, treat yourself like somebody that you value, that you love,
right,
that you have a nurturing kind of relationship.
It's important to kind of externalize, yourself and say, what would I do if I were helping a friend in the same situation that I'm in?
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
So it's a way to externalize that. Instead of saying, what should I do? You can say, well, what would I tell myself if I was helping myself out?
Yeah.
If I was trying to encourage myself to do the right thing.
It's a way of making it psychologically real, which is a great phrase, making things psychologically real.
Well, and it's also creative. It's a way to brainstorm, to get ideas out of yourself that you can't access directly.
Right.
I had originally done this, incidentally. I'd rewritten the 12 Rules for Life when the book first came out. My rule number 1 was think rationally.
Yes.
My rule number 2 was act accordingly.
Yes.
Rules 3 through 12 were profit, dance, romance, sing, embrace, create, laugh, produce, mentor, swoon.
That sounds great.
Actually, only the
sounds
first.
Much better.
the first 2 rules were really the only rules, and that's when people say to me, "What's the shortest explanation you have for what is objectivism?"
Yes.
Or, think rationally, act accordingly. Everything else is, results. Profit, dance, romance, sing, embrace, create, laugh, produce, mentor, swoon. But that doesn't really count as a rewrite, so I'm going to do a rewrite this week.
Ladies and gentlemen, there are no lobsters involved in that.
No lobsters. Zero lobsters.
Except for eating with butter.
The only hierarchy we have is our personal hierarchy of values.
Yes.
That's right.
Which includes lobster with butter.
So, yes, you can join me on that. You can join me on imagine the opposite. If you're shy, imagine, well, what would this situation, this occasion, what would it be like if you were the opposite of shy? Don't fake it. Don't just imagine that for a second and watch yourself feel a little more boldness.
Right. If it was natural for you to be a bit more bold and less shy,
okay,
what would that look like?
If you're very conservative with risk, great. But what would it look like if you were a risk taker?
Yeah.
Just imagine that for a moment. If you were an investor, if you were a giver, if you're insecure, just imagine for a second, okay, but what if you were bold or cocky or proud or confident or boisterous or gregarious? Opposites are never just one thing. Insecure, okay, but you could be, for a moment, bold, cocky, proud, confident, boisterous, gregarious. Imagine the opposite, and then yes, by all means, join me on the rewrites, which is always fun. So Amy is posting all sorts of good information in the chat about the Cordair contest.
Yes.
While she finishes that up, I'm just going to say, show notes will be available within 10 minutes after this show. That's right. Links to everything that we've discussed and a few things we haven't even discussed. Available online and for free. They're right there for you to take them. Check them out. Questions or comments on the show can be posted in the 5 Minutes with Robert Nasir Facebook group. If you would like to support our venture, our show, if you would like to be one of the people who makes this happen, go to patreon.com/Robert Nasir. Throw a couple dollars in the pot. Yaron was mentioning that today. Some people complain that I'm always asking for money because he'll do this 5 times over the course of his show. He said, well, the reality is, and he's right about this, the reality is if you don't ask, it doesn't happen. Well, we only ask at the end of the show because we're like that. And because some of you have already been generous and are already in our list of patrons. But yes, patreon.com/Robert Nasir. And it looks like you've got everything there.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. I knew the show would run a little bit long, but I appreciate you listening fast. Because that let us get everything in right under the clock here.
So, and I just gotta say, love you guys. Happy Valentine's Day. And this is episode number 50.
Episode 50.
Woo! Yes!
Big slap. Make the levels on the recording go crazy. Yes, episode number 50. And how many weeks are in a year?
52.
52. We are 2 away from our anniversary.
That's amazing.
Oh my gosh. Holy heck. Let's keep it G-rated. So thank you for joining us on this 50-week journey and this 50th episode. 2 more episodes before we get to our anniversary episode. And then we're going to go wild. I can't even imagine what we're going to do on episode 53, the 1 year. But it's going to be awesome. And it will be doubly awesome, triply awesome, infinitely, what do we say? Nothing is infinite. Infinitely awesomer-ish.
Boundlessly
awesome.
awesomer.
If you are here with us, and we know you will be, thank you so much for being here. As always, we wish you success. We want that for you. We're hurting if you're hurting. We wish you success. We wish you flourishing. We wish you a happy Valentine's Day. As always, and today, as much as or more than ever, we wish you love.
Mwah.